Hey everybody, and welcome to another Cricut craft tutorial. Before we get started, be sure to check out my website at CorinneBlackstone.com. You can find my free newsletter there, a bunch of free SVGs, and also my shop. I hope you'll check that out. Today's video is a really fun one. I'm going to show you how to make your very own cake topper. It's really fun and really easy, and it only takes a few supplies. You're going to need some craft foam, a hot melt glue gun, acetate or transparency film, and then some sort of sticks that you can use in your cake. And then I also made this one a shaker style, so anything that you want to put inside that little shaker part will work great. This was super fun and super easy, so let's get started.
Whatever we would do, we do it just for fun.
We're going to do this in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to show you how to do this from start to finish. So what we're going to do is click Upload, then Upload Image and Browse. You're going to want to find the image that you saved to use. Now I'm going to put this one in my website for you guys under the free downloads. That way you guys have it, but it's really easy. You can really use anything that you want if you didn't want to do a Minnie Mouse. So the first thing that I'm going to do is select Complex and click Continue. Now I'm going to go ahead into Advanced Options and change my color tolerance to 100. Go ahead and click away all of the white space, and don't worry, we're going to need to fill the bow back in, but I'll show you why we removed it in a few minutes. Go ahead and click Continue. You're going to save the cut image, which is the one on the left-hand side, and click Upload. Select your image and click Insert Images. Now that you have your ears in here, so you got your Minnie Mouse, what we're going to do is make a couple of different layers to use for our cake topper. So I'm going to duplicate it, and the first layer that I'm going to start with is going to be the solid layer for the back of our design. We're going to actually have two solid layers, but we'll make the first one, and then we will make an offset to give it a little more depth. So what I'm going to do is go to Contour in the lower right-hand corner, and all I want to do is click Hide All Contours. That's going to fill in our bow, and that's going to give us a solid background to use for our mouse. Now this is going to stay black. So what I'm going to do now is I want to make an offset, and I like to make an offset for my cake toppers because I think they just punch a little bit harder. They look a little fancier when you put them on to your cake, but I don't want a really big one, so I think I'm going to go like 0.15. I want it just to be real thin. I'm going to click Apply, and then I'm going to change the color of that because we're going to actually make that like a light silver. So we have the main portion of our cake topper. So now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again because we're going to make the bow out of this portion. So go ahead and slide that over and click Contour in that lower corner. And now we want to get rid of the outside ears, but we want to keep the bow. So just click like the main portion, and you'll see now that you're left with her bow. We're going to change the bow, and we'll make the bow bright red. Now I'm going to start kind of building my design over here on my main portion. That way we can kind of keep track. Now if they're a little bit big, you can either zoom out, or we haven't fully sized them yet, so you can just make them smaller so that you have more space to work with. And we'll resize them later. Now I want to make this a shaker, so I need a center of this. So I'll need a circle. So what I'm going to do is open up my shapes and get a circle. The shapes sometimes are a little bit slow, but don't worry. So now what I'm going to do is figure out about how big I want my circle to be. I think that actually looks like a pretty good size for my circle. Yeah, I actually think that's pretty good. So we're going to need a couple pieces of this circle. We are going to need one full solid circle. That is going to be for the acetate that is going to sit on top of, so that's like our clear part that's going to sit on top of everything. But then we're also going to need some smaller circles for the inside to make like the frame, and we're going to need two of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this circle right here. So this is going to be the clear acetate portion of our circle. So I'm just going to kind of put it over here. Like I said, we're just going to build on one side so we can make sure we have all the parts that we need. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this circle again. Now I want my framing of my circle to be a little bit smaller. So all I'm going to do is just make the inside circle here just a smidgen smaller. I'm going to make it so that I have a nice size edge around my acetate. Now again, we'll resize everything once we've kind of played with it and figured out where we want it to go. I think that looks like a decently thick outside line. So what I'm going to do, whoops, and I don't know why it did that. Let's hit undo. What I'm going to do is grab both of the circles by holding control on my keyboard and clicking both of them over here on my layers panel. The first thing that I want to do is I want to align them and I want to center them. The next thing that I want to do is click slice. That's going to give us the outside ring that we need. So you'll see you'll have two smaller circles and then we have the outside ring. So you'll see that that outside ring fits around this circle here. I'm going to duplicate that because we need one for the inside and one for the outside of the design. So once you have those, that looks pretty good. Again, we're not lining them up perfectly, just kind of the way we want them to look. We can get rid of those smaller circles. We don't need them. We actually really don't need this Minnie Mouse anymore either, so we're done with her. The next thing that we're going to do is put whatever we want here in the middle of our circle. You don't have to necessarily put anything there, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put like a little number for how old the child is going to be, because I'm making this for a kid. So let's just say that our child is going to be 1 year old. So we'll make a little 1. Now you can mess with the font, do whatever kind of font you want. I have one that is the Disney font. So let's take a look and see what that one looks like. It's called Waltograph. And I think that would be a pretty cute little number 1 for inside of this. And we'll make it red like the bow, because I think that will look pretty cute. Now I will say sometimes the font hasn't been working really well lately. It's been giving a lot of issue as far as like changing colors and stuff like that. So if you're having a problem like that, sometimes just making sure that you save your project and then coming back to it can help. But I'm going to save this right now and just call it Cake Topper Mini. And I'm going to put it into my Disney collection by just selecting that and clicking save. So I do that if I'm getting problems with it, just so that I don't lose any of my hard work. So now you'll see that then I've done that. It's going to let me go ahead and change my color. Like I said, sometimes it just has a few issues. So let's change the color on a few other things so that we can make sure everything cuts in the correct color. So this center circle, this big circle, is going to be clear. So I like to make it white. That way I know that that's going to be a clear image. Then we have one that's going to be our backing piece and one that's going to be our front. And I want those both to be just black so that they really match with the Minnie Mouse. But what we could actually do is let's make one of them black and let's do the one in the front like the bright silver, because then it will match the offset and I think that will look really cute. So here is the cake topper pieces. Now we are going to resize this because this is a little bit kind of dependent on how large of a cake that you want or things like that. So you'll want to kind of figure out how big a cake you're going to have. I'm going to make this fairly large just so we can really see what I'm doing, and that way you guys get a really good idea of how to put this all together and make this a really cool design that you can do on your own. This looks like a pretty good size to work with. So we're not going to need to mirror anything. We're not going to need to do anything too crazy with this. It's pretty easy to put together design that we are going to do. Now, one thing I will say, if you want your cake topper to look the same front and back, you'll need to do 2 of them and kind of sandwich them together. However, I don't really necessarily care if it looks the same front to back, but I would like the back to have a nice like piece on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and take and duplicate the offset. That way I can just sandwich the offsets together and I'll have a nice smooth back. That way it's not looking kind of funny. And you can do this in any color that you want, any style. So now that we've done all of that, all we have to do is click Make It. Now we are going to be using the Cricut Maker 3 because that's what I have hooked up. So it is going to ask me whether I want to cut this on matte, which I do. So I'm just going to tell it on matte and click OK. Now we're going to take a look at how it has everything laid out, because we are working with 9 by 12 inch sheets of our foam. So one of these is going to be glitter silver, and one of these is just going to be regular gray, just because I think that I don't want glitter on both sides. So what I'm going to do you see that how it moved this little circle? We can actually move it around. So what I'm going to do is tell it my material size. So my material size is 9 by 12. That's going to actually show us exactly where it's going to cut. And what I'm going to do here is move this so that it fits on another page. So all you have to do is click the 3 dots, click Move Object, and select the mat you want to put it on. You want to make sure that it's not overlapping, so you don't want it like this. You want to make sure that it has its own space, but that is going to be the one that will cut on the silver, and then we'll cut the other one here just on gray, and it won't matter that you didn't mirror it because it's the same color front and back. Then we have the clear, which is going to be our acetate, which is white. And we have the black, which again, you can always just tell it if it's better for you that you're working with 9 by 12 material. That way it kind of knows and it will move things where it needs to be. But for the most part, it keeps everything really well, you know, within our working space the way they have this designed. But I'll tell it we're working with 9 by 12s just to be safe. So we have everything laid out, set up, and ready to go. Now for cutting the foam, I'm going to show you guys the cut settings. We are ready to select our materials. So click Browse All Materials, and I find that just search the word for foam and it will bring up some options. You have craft foam, EVA foam, flex foam, and glitter craft foam. Now I do find that the glitter craft foam works great for using the actual glitter foam. EVA foam seems to work great for all of the others that I use. So I'm going to choose glitter craft foam because we're going to cut the silver out in glitter and we're going to do the red in glitter. And then I will show you guys how to change your setting. This project does require a blade change, so I'm going to use my deep point blade. This is a blade that comes in a black housing. Now mine is covered in absolute glitter, just a mess. So what I'm going to do is wipe this off first. So I just sort of run the edge of this along my finger. You can also just pull the blade out completely and you can then wipe the glitter off of the top of this. You'll also want to make sure that your blade is clean of any glitter. So I just kind of give it a quick up motion. You never want to poke yourself with the blade. That looks good. Everything looks like it's been cleaned off. So I'm going to go ahead and place my blade back inside my housing. And all you have to do is open clamp B, remove your fine point blade, and then just input your deep point blade just like you would any other. Just set it in and it should be good. Now I am using a light grip mat for this because this has a paper backing to it. It is sticky on one side, so I like to use my light grip mat to do these ones. I find that it works a little bit better with the ones that have adhesive on the back. I don't need the strong grip for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just press this down real good. And one other step that you'll want to take is your star wheels. You see these white wheels? You're going to want to slide them over so that they are off of your material. That way they don't indent your material in any way. So what we'll do is go ahead and load this. Click the load button. It's going to measure our material. Then it's going to ask us to press the go button and it's going to cut everything out. Before we pull this off the mat, I will give it a quick test just to make sure that it cut through. So I just lift a corner, and then if it's not all the way through, I at least check to see that it went through enough that I can pull it off of our backing. I'm actually going to have this cut one more time. Occasionally you'll need to do a double cut. If you need to do that, just don't unload your mat. Just hit the go button again, and it'll cut in the same place that it was before. So we'll just check that cut one more time just to make sure that it cut. Now it cut through, so we're good. Go ahead and unload the mat. It's really important to check your cuts for things like this just to make sure they cut all the way through. Now I do have quite a bit of foam left over, so we will save this over to the side. And then I'm going to flip my mat over and remove my foam here. I will save this circle. You never know, I might use it for something else. And then I'm going to pop off a Mickey here, or a mini head, And there are our two pieces so far of our little shaker cake topper. So we'll go ahead and do the next part, which is this gray color. I'm going to continue to use this mat. A, it's pretty sticky, and B, it works really well for foam. For whatever reason, it shouldn't, but it really does. So I'm going to go ahead and press this down. This is a much larger sheet of foam. This is like a 12 by 15, I think. You can find these at pretty much any craft store or on Amazon. I will link all the foam that I'm using for you guys down below. So we're going to go ahead and choose the other cut setting for this. I'll show you guys how to do that, and then we'll get this cut. Now we need to change the setting for our different kind of foam. So you're just going to do the same thing. Browse all materials, search the word foam, and I'm going to choose EVA foam. We're ready to cut our acetate, or in this case we're going to use some transparency film. So all we need to do is click browse all materials, and I find that if I search for acetate, so I just search ACET, it brings up two options. It brings up acetate and it brings up foil acetate. Use the regular acetate setting and click done. This is going to tell you that you'll need your fine point blade, so we will need to change out our blade. Easy as that. I do find that cutting it on the more pressure setting works a little bit better for me. Have all of our pieces cut out. So one thing to note is that this will only fit one direction on your cake topper. If you do it the other way, it won't fit. But what we're going to do first is go ahead and line up our bow. That's going to be like our first step, because this is pre-adhesive. Like, we don't have to use any hot melt glue. These are already adhesive. So what I'm going to do is just line this up with our cake topper. And like I said, these are already adhesive, so they're super easy. You can just sort of stick them down, get them lined up, and stick them down. They're just like stickers. So it's a really, really easy piece to do. And so while we wait for the glue gun to heat up, we can just lay out her bow, which I just thought would be super simple. And then we can kind of make sure that we have all of our pieces and everything is going to look really cute. This is going to be such a fun little cake topper. We've got the acetate, the little spacer, and then we also have our silver ring that goes on top, and then this is the back piece for our cake topper. So this will go behind everything. And then we have our little one. This is going to be adorable. So I'm going to let the hot melt glue heat up, and then we will get everything placed. We're just going to use our little mini Ryobi glue gun, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue like at the top, and I totally splooched. I don't love this glue gun. It's a little bit, it gets a little sploogey sometimes, if that makes sense. Like, it puts out a little too much glue. So I like to just put a little bit like up at the top, and then we can fold this to get the rest, but this will help you line it up a little easier because you're not trying to like line up everything. So then I just press that down, and then we'll add a little bit of glue down here at the bottom. And all I do here is I just run a little bead of glue kind of around the edge. It doesn't need to be too crazy, and then I just usually put a little line in the middle. And if it gets a little bit off-centered, just kind of slide it, but that's actually pretty close. There we go. Good to go. Now this glue that they came with, not my favorite. I prefer either Gorilla brand or the AdTech brand glue. I think it works a little bit better. It's just personal preference. So the next thing that we'll need to do is lay down the spacer circle here. And this little guy, we're going to need to make sure that we get glue all around him. So one thing I like to do is I'll set this like on the backing of some paper or something, just to make sure that I get it kind of laid down, and then I just very gently pull the trigger on this so that it's not like getting glue everywhere, because it really does just like to come out. She's intense when glue comes out of this one. It is intense. So just keep that in mind when getting this glue gun. It does like to really spill glue out. So I let this cool for just a second because this glue does tend to dry pretty quickly. And then what I'm going to do is get this laid out where I want it on my mini. And just press this down, making sure to press it on all sides. And now we can fill it, but what I like to do is I'll make sure any of like those glue strings are out of the way because they're going to be obvious once you put them in. And all we're using for this is some Dollar Tree confetti. It's called tube confetti. You can find it in the little dollar section. It comes in a couple colors, but we're going to use blue for this. And you can use anything that you want in here, but I do find this tube confetti works amazing in these because it really looks really cool. So I'm going to use some blue, and all I'm going to do is just sprinkle a bunch in here. Kind of like flatten it out a little bit because I do want it to move, but I don't want like a ton of it everywhere. And I'm going to close that up, and then I just sort of take these extras and I just sort of toss them in. The next thing that we need to do is lay down our acetate. So again, what we're going to do is take our glue gun and with it on our Minnie Mouse, just very gently going around, and you want to make sure that you have glue on every portion so that the acetate doesn't leak out any glue. And I do think that this is loose on one side. As I'm kind of pressing this glue gun around, I noticed that the ring moved, so we'll need to fix that, but that's okay, we can fix that. And we'll just lay this down, and you want to get it straight on to your circle, and then just press it down. And I will say that this doesn't always love to stick, so you may need to kind of come through and assist it a little bit in some places. But I think I am going to need to glue down the base a little bit better. It seems to kind of be coming up, and that can happen from time to time. So if that's happening, all I'm going to simply do, see how that's kind of coming up off of there? That'll happen. So all I'm going to do is tap this stuff so it's out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and just run some glue back around the base here. But we need to make sure that this is all tucked in here so that it's not going to get stuck under the edge. And if you've got pieces that just want to pop out, just pull them out because they're just being a pain. But you do just want to make sure that you have enough glue around the bottom here that it's not going to come out. For some reason, this must have dried a little bit too much before we set it down. So again, this is just a little adventure that you're going to have to kind of play with and figure out what works best for you. And I do notice that my acetate really didn't stick very well either. We're just going to go ahead and hold this all down. Okay, there we go. We're good. We got everything stuck down. So now I'm just going to take these little spiders off, the little spiders from the paper, or the hot melt glue. And then this is self-adhesive. Again, great. Honestly, if you can use self-adhesive sheets for this entire thing, that's awesome. It's going to save you so much more time than trying to use hot melt glue, and the only parts you're going to have to glue would be the acetate. So I would recommend, if you can find adhesive that goes for all of this, definitely do it, because it's a lot easier than trying to glue everything down yourself. So now we've got that part, and then the last thing we need to do is stick the number 1 on here. And this part is 100% optional. You don't have to do this. It's up to you. And I will say our 1 kind of got stuck to a piece of paper, so we'll get that stuck down. Number 1. And this is going to go at a little bit of an angle, so she's going to sit kind of sidewaysy a little bit because that's just the way I wanted it. I think it'll look cute with a little bit of a tilt to her head. So that is done. The last thing that we need to do now is to apply our sticks. That's going to hold her in, and then we are going to put the gray part on. But again, this is all self-adhesive, so all we need to do is peel this backing paper off, and this is like very sticky stuff. I will say this is super sticky, so I really like it. It is real sticky foam. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and do that, and then we're going to stick our little sticks in, and all you have to do is stick those to the back, and then we're going to take our gray piece and get it lined up over here and just stick it down and press it down. Now you are going to have some bumps back here, but that's okay because that's where your little sticks are that go into your design, and voila. You have an adorable little mini shaker cake topper. Super easy, super fun, real cute. Here is the finished cake topper. So I'm sorry, I was not going to go out and buy an entire cake that was never getting eaten. So I made you this cute little mock-up, but this is a really fun cake topper. I feel like you guys could really be creative, do whatever you want. This just gives you kind of an idea on how to set it up, how to use contour, and how to make your own little shaker spot. This was such a fun little cake topper that I just feel like it's really something that you could use in all sorts of different ways. If you guys have questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking that big red subscribe button down below. I would love to have you as part of my crafty family here on YouTube. I hope you guys had so much fun with this cake topper tutorial. If you want to see any other specific tutorials, let me know down below in the comments. And be sure to grab the SVG for the mini head at my website, CorinneBlackstone.com. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting!